needs no introduction. So why am I giving him an introduction? But anyway, he came to our booth. When he signed, he was 18 years old. And he came to our booth. I was working with Michael Kay then, and he was just as intelligent and just as well-mannered as he is today. I mean, he's really a phenomenal, not just player, but really some human being, and it's been my pleasure to know him all these years. A career where he's been a 14-time All-Star, a 5-time World Champion. He recorded 3,465 hits. He's on his way to Cooperstown. And it better be unanimous. That's all I have to say. Ladies and gentlemen, El Capitan, Derek Jeter. What happened is he drove here tonight. He's on the west side highway.
I apologize. I'm going to be late. Maybe
You know the old saying, one is the loneliest number. Derek. And you're going to have a chance to ask Derek basically anything you want.
You guys want some chairs or anything?
I got a chair. I've been standing for a long time. Okay, I'm going to kick it off. I've never asked you this. You know, people ask me this and I never have an answer. Never. You've had all these phenomenal games. 3,500 hits, yada yada. What is the Yankee career? What is the greatest highlight in your mind? What comes to mind when you think of the #1 highlight?
Yeah, it's tough for me. I've been asked this. Can you guys hear me? Is this working? Here we go. What's up? You know, I've been asked that question quite a bit, especially as a big, very, very hard to pick one moment in particular because there's been so many different moments. It was kind of unfair to say my last game at Yankee Stadium just because it's fresh in my mind. But that was a special moment for me there. But the thing that I will take from my career is all the moments that I've had. Most of the special moments I've had has been here in New York. That's been the most.
You know what? Like everything else you do, that's a pretty good answer. We're going to go to questions. I don't know the format. Do I have to pick out the people?
No, we're going to do it right over here, John.
Okay.
Stage right over here. What's your first question?
How did it feel when Curtis Granderson and Robinson Cano left the Yankees?
Well, for me, when you play with different guys throughout the years, you're with them every single day for about 8 months. So a lot of these guys, especially that you play with for a long time. They're like brothers. So you understand it's a business, but then again, it's hard to take at times, especially, you know, Robbie I played with quite a bit of time, but you know, we'll continue to be friends. Same thing with Curtis, it's just we don't work together anymore. So I don't work at all anymore. There you go, yeah, you miss guys when they leave.
Thank you, Renee.
Derek, what do you want for Christmas?
It's a good question. You know, I don't know. I like giving for Christmas. It does not mean I don't want something. But I don't know. You know, I enjoy when my whole family comes together. I enjoy Christmas time as opposed to just opening particular gifts. I enjoy spending a lot of time with family members.
Right here we go.
Hey, Derek, first of all, thank you very much to Mall of New York. Quick question. You know, you've dealt with a lot of personalities, and in New York, you're dealing with so many media personalities. What was the hardest time you had to keep your composure with the mundane questions you get over the years?
Well, listen, I think I've been treated extremely fairly by the media. You know, I understand the fact that we play a game where there's a lot of criticism, second guessing. I always understood that. So I don't like negativity. So to be quite honest with you, I didn't really read a lot of the newspapers. I didn't listen to talk radio. I do a little bit more, not talk radio, but I do a little bit more of reading the papers now because usually I'm not in it. But you just have to adjust to, I think, being criticized and analyzed, especially when you play here in New York.
Actually, Derek would go home for the most part and listen to my broadcast. And I forgot to do something. I'm amazing. I forget everything the minute I go on the air. We would like to present with you a Turn 2 Foundation check, and you know the amount, $2,222.22. You've experienced that before all year long. So, okay,
That's from everyone here, Derek. We really appreciate it.
everyone here, the Turn 2 Foundation. Next question, please.
Okay, right here in the back.
Derek, first thing, my girlfriend dreams of you every evening.
It's a problem for you, right?
But how was your golf game with the president?
Well, I won. Does not say anything about my golf game. You know, in golf, you're dealing with handicaps, so it was fun. It was a fun experience for me, but I really just started playing golf, so it's a very frustrating sport. I have a lot of work to do, I guess.
Here we go, question right here.
Speaking of reading about you every night,
We're right in the middle here, Derek.
do you have any plans to get married?
Evidently, I got married. That's what they said about a month ago. Yeah, I would like to one day. When I do it, I'm not going to break any news here today. But yeah, I look forward to starting that chapter in my life at some point.
Okay, right here in the back.
Derek, do you think in the back in the future, be coming back as a coach, as a manager someday?
No.
What about owner?
No manager.
How bad is a shortstop?
You know, the thing is, you know, John knows as well as anyone, our schedule is not an ideal schedule. I mean, we're getting into, you know, cities 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, we have to play the next day. I'm not complaining, but that's just how it is. And after doing it for 20 years, you know, 23 years professionally, I couldn't get back on that schedule at all. You know, you know, people are saying owner. I would love to be a part of an ownership group at some point, but in terms of coaching or managing, no.
I think the toughest thing, and again, people don't want to hear this, but the Yankees are so well regarded, their ratings are so good, that they never get a getaway day game. It drives the Yankees nuts, drives me nuts. Forget about the Yankees. And what Derek says is true. You can't believe how many cities we get to at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning, especially after the Sunday night ESPN games. And they get us every time they're allowed. I mean, that's part of it. That's part of your job. It is. That's I think, the toughest thing of all.
Here we go, question on the corner right over here, stage right.
Real quick though, but how about this stat? I guess I just found this out this year that John has been in every game that I've played in my major league career. He's got to be. He's got to be the only one. My family gets tired of watching him.
That's what this writer told me. He said, I told Derek, you know, John's seen every game you play. He said, boy, he must be tired of seeing me. No. Yes.
So what was your favorite experience this past year between the commercials, the mementos you received from the different teams? What do you think the most about that you remember?
Man, this past year for me, it really was an outpouring of appreciation and respect that I received, you know, not only from the fans, but also from my opponents and organizations that basically I've been trying to beat for years. So, you know, I think just the overall experience for me was something that I'll never forget. It was unexpected. You know, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into going into the last year, but you know, those memories that I have from, you know, every city around the country are pretty special.
You know, before every game, Derek would be honored, let's say, on the final day of the series, on the road. And it really got to me, and Susan too. We're very emotional people anyway. But what got me was how the fans honored Derek, like in St. Louis. He played 3 games in St. Louis in all these years, and the way the opposing team and the opposing management and the fans in all the cities honored him. I mean, Susan and I were close to tears on every one of those nights, so that must have been great. It must have been just something to take with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it was odd. You know, very odd. And what I mean by that, I think the epitome of that was in Boston when we finished the season in Boston. And you know, they're cheering for me, and they cheered for me, but just they weren't saying good things. It's a very unique experience.
Renee, next question.
Hey, Derek, since the Core Four has been such an intricate part of your life for the last 20 years, do you intend to stay in touch with the guys? Over here, Derek. Like I said, since the Core Four has been such an intricate part of your life for the last 20 years plus, is there an intent to stay in touch with these guys? I know they're part of your family, but how do you do that?
Well, by phone. You know, and those guys, I've played with all of them since I was 18 years old, so they're like brothers to me, and we continue to stay in touch. Throughout the years, even when Andy left and played in Houston, we stayed in touch. And, you know, we have shared so many experiences and have so many memories together as a group. You know, that'll never go away. And you know, those guys will always hold a special place in my heart. A big part of my whole, you know, adult life. I've been playing professional baseball longer than I have, and you know, those guys are a big part of it.
Right, we have a question right here.
Who was the toughest pitcher you've ever faced?
Oh man, that's a good question. You mean the person that has the best stuff, or the person that just couldn't get a hit off?
Couldn't get it.
Couldn't get a hit off. You know, there was a pitcher by the name of Mike Timlin. I told this story before. He was in Toronto. He was with Boston for years, and I just couldn't get a hit off of him. And then, you know, one particular game, he hit me in the head. It's not a joke. So anyway, he hit me in the head, and he used to jam me all the time. And then after he hit me in the head, he's the nicest guy in the world. I played with him in the WBC, but after he hit me in the head, he would always pitch outside. So then I started getting some hits off.
I want to tell you this. In one of my greatest memories, the Yankees went to Boston some years ago, and they had to play 5 games. It had a rain out. So we played 2 on Friday, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. Do you remember all the odd times? You'd finish a game, then you have to go right back there. Then you wouldn't be there for like almost a day. And in the Friday, the Yankees won all 5 games. And in the Friday doubleheader, and I don't know if it was the game 1 or game 2, One game was the longest 9-inning game in the history of baseball. And the other game went about 13 innings. Anyway, the Yankees were down by 3. I think it was the second game. And Derek comes up against Mike Timlin. Bases loaded. And he hit a bullet down the right field line for a 3-run triple to tie the game, and the Yankees went on to win. Remember that?
Renee?
Why did you decide to be a Yankee?
Well, first of all, I didn't decide. I don't know where you are. Everyone keeps saying here in the back. I was drafted by the Yankees. It was always my dream, being born in New Jersey and going to visit my grandparents in Jersey every summer. I was a huge Yankee fan, but I was just fortunate to be drafted by them. You know, the draft is sort of a crapshoot, so I guess the stars aligned, and I was drafted by the Yankees. But it was not by it wasn't my choice. It would have been my choice, but it wasn't.
Great question right here.
What's the funniest thing you ever saw or were a part of on the baseball field?
Funniest thing I've ever, there's a lot of funny things, a lot of things that go on that you guys don't know. A lot of visits to the mound. We were, one thing that stands out, we were playing Oakland in the ALDS. It was the year, I don't know, it was 2000, we played them twice, I don't know which year it was. Remember when Soho tripped over his shoelaces and ground ball? It was a one-run game, I think, at the time. We were in the 7th or 8th inning. Pettit was pitching, and there was a routine ground ball for the 3rd out to second base, and Soho tripped over his shoelaces and fell down after he caught the ball. And it really wasn't a time to laugh, but I couldn't stop laughing. It was hilarious, and I went out to the mound, and Pettit's sitting there, and he's saying, "This is not happening, not now, not to me." And I couldn't control myself. I had my glove on my face. Really, like I said, it's not the appropriate time to laugh. That was pretty funny.
Renee?
Samantha has a question right here. What advice would you give to a player replacing you?
There's not possible.
Just have fun, enjoy yourself, be yourself. I don't think you're replacing me. You're just playing the same position. So it's people always make so much about who you're following, who's playing next. You have to be your own person. I've never played the game trying to be someone else. I've always tried to be myself, and I think that applies to anyone.
Question right here on the right, Deborah.
Hi, Derek. How satisfying was it to you after missing last year with broken ankle and coming back and showing everyone how wonderful you still are as a player?
It was tough. I broke my ankle. I got out of a boot, I think, in January, and then I was playing games at the end of February. It was all my fault. I wanted to get back. I set a goal to be back on opening day. It didn't work out. I ended up breaking my ankle again. It took quite some time to come back. So I was happy that I stayed healthy and remained healthy throughout last season. I wish the outcome and the results would have been a little bit different. But I'm happy that my final year I was able to play healthy.
Thank you, Renee.
Derek, right here. First off, thank you for all the memories. We really appreciate them. Starting with the Mr. November home run. I know in the celebration you may have sprained your ankle a little bit, but I always notice on the outskirts of all the celebrations at home plate moving forward. What are your thoughts on A-Rod's typical chase of the helmet as though he's chasing like a bouquet at a wedding? Are there any thoughts as to whether or not that's something you would do, or whether or not you would embrace that sort of thing, or you just look at that and say that's typical A-Rod?
Next question.
It's a different part. The first part, yes, after I hit the home run, I bruised the bottom of my heel, so I had a very difficult time moving the last 2 games, or 3 games in the World Series. So that's why that was the last time I did that. In terms of catching a helmet, people have all different kind of celebrations at home plate. I mean, you look at other teams, everyone's doing something different. I think that's how the times have changed. So whatever, hey, that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. I don't do it to avoid injury. But if you want to do it, go ahead.
Great question right here.
Hey, so my question's not as long as that guy's, but what was your reaction when you found out Alex took steroids?
Stage right here, Derek. Stage right here.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
What was your reaction when you found out Alex was on steroids?
What was my reaction? Well, man, you know, the reaction is one, you're disappointed. You know, what I've always tried to do throughout my career is try to learn from people's mistakes. You know, everyone makes mistakes. Unfortunately, when you're in the position that some of us are in, most of your mistakes are public knowledge. So I think I've learned more from people's mistakes than I actually have learned from people's successes. So everyone's going to make mistakes, but you just try to turn some sort of a negative into a positive, and if it can help you grow as a person, then you use that.
Thank you, Derek. Renee? Great answer.
He's good.
What did you like most about playing in the MLB?
What did I like the most? Oh, man, that's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. You know, since I was 4 or 5 years old, I wanted to be a shortstop. Because my dad was a shortstop, I wanted to be a shortstop for the Yankees. Because my grandmother was a Yankee fan, therefore I was a Yankee fan. So just living a dream and getting an opportunity to play in front of, in my opinion, the greatest fans in the world.
Yeah.
The fans are what makes it fun for us to play. You know, it'd be an entirely different game if there was no one in the stands.
Question right here, stage right.
How was Dave Winfield the inspiration camp?
How was Dave Winfield an inspiration? Dave was, for those of you that don't know, I still think he's the only athlete to be drafted in all 3 sports. So anyone here that thinks they're a good athlete can't compare to Dave. But he was an inspiration to me because he was one of the first athletes to start his own foundation. And that's the idea and inspiration of my own foundation, because when I was younger I read up on Dave. I wanted to be like him.
Renee?
Derek, when you reflect on your career and you look at the numbers and the players that represented those numbers in Monument Park, how does that make you feel? You're number 2, 1's retired, 3's retired, 4's retired, all the way up to 10. What do you think about as a Yankee?
Well, I don't think about that. I tend not to think about things that haven't happened. You know what I mean? When I came up, when I first was given number 2, I honestly believe I was given number 2 because it was the smallest jersey they had. Mike Gallego had it before me, you know. So I think that's the only one that probably would fit. So I'm well aware of the history of the organization because, you know, in my mind, I don't think you can move forward unless you know the past. And I know a lot about Yankee history, a lot about Yankee tradition. So I understand how special it is to have a single digit, but in terms of anything in the future, I just don't allow myself to think about it.
Great. Stage right, Derek.
If you could have played with any Yankee in history, who would it be?
It's a good one. Oh, man.
Yogi?
It's a tough one to pick. Well, I feel like I'm playing with Yogi anyway. He's in there most of the time. Maybe Garrick. Yeah, I think Garrick.
Why?
You know, Garrick is you know, a former captain. Heard so much about his character, and you know, I would like to have had an opportunity to play with him. But I think there's a list of people that you can pick. I mean, maybe Garrick if I had to choose just one.
Right over here, stage left. This is going to be our last question.
Make it a good one.
Did you play any position other than shortstop in like grade school or high school?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you play any position other than shortstop in grade school or high school?
You know what? I played third base a little bit. I played second base when my dad was a coach, which I was not very happy about, but he was teaching me a lesson. He was saying you have to worry about the things you can control, and in this situation, I controlled it. At second base, I pitched a little bit, but once I got to high school, it was pretty much just shortstop.
How was your curveball?
Thank you. And one final question before we begin the photo line, Derek, right over here, stage right.
How would you choose baseball to be your favorite sport? What other sports do you play?
I played a little bit of everything. I touched on this yesterday. I was speaking at Hamilton College, and the difference between my generation and the younger generation coming up is everyone now seems to specialize in sports from such an early age. You never go outside and see kids playing. I used to go out and play all different kind of sports all day long. Now this generation here is going to have very, very strong thumbs. Video games all the time. So yeah, I played a little bit of everything.
Thank you.
You want less miles. You want less miles at U of M, right?
I see the camera you recording me right now.
It's off now.
All right, everyone that's in group number 1, to my left over there, please take a look at your photo cards. Please line up over there. We're going to start to bring you up over here. We're going to begin the photo taking portion of the evening with Derek Jeter. Once again, group number 1 only, right to my left. Please make your way over there now. Wait till then if you see the group number 2. You're going to come up right after. Once again, no cell phone cameras, please, on stage. We've got the professional photographer who's going to take your photo. You'll be able to download it. So let's get going as quickly as possible. Once again, group number 1, please make sure you